Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 5th, 2020. It's going to be a short show today. College basketball and NBA. We'll look back on last night, look ahead to today's games. NFL playoff teams questions that I have for all 14 of the NFL playoff teams. Best bet of the day. We're going to save the NHL center rankings for tomorrow. All right, we'll start in college basketball. We'll go over the games from yesterday and look ahead to the games today. So without further ado, here we go. Montana over Northern Colorado, 56-54. BU over Holy Cross, 83-76. Stanford over Oregon State, 81-71. Winthrop over Charleston Southern, 85-69. Siena over Bama, 76-62. Campbell over Gardner-Webb, 70-61. Youngstown State over Carlo, 109-56. South Carolina Upstate over Longwood, 79-69 or 71-69. South Dakota State over Mount Mary College, 93-50. Drake over Southern Illinois, 86-55. Radford over Hampton, 79-66. Coppin State over Delaware State, 86-78. Indiana State over Maryland, 63-55. Number 14, West Virginia comes back from 19 down to beat Oklahoma State, 87-84. Big bounce-back win for them. San Diego State over Colorado State, 78-65. Fresno State over Wyoming, 81-61. Jackson State over Alabama State, 60-44. And San Jose State over Benedictine, Arizona, 80-64. All right. Today's slate of games is a little bit bigger than it was yesterday, but not by a ton. So, first game on the docket today is set for 2 o'clock between Holy Cross and Boston University. My projected line is Boston University by 25. And Boston University's favored by 12.5. I'm going to lay the 12.5 at Boston University at a juice number at minus 114. Toledo, Kent State, my projected number is Toledo 13.5, and it's Toledo as a 1.5 point underdog. That's weird. I'm taking Toledo plus 1.5 and minus 106 and plus 110 straight up. 3 o'clock, you have Campbell and Gardner-Webb. My projection is Gardner-Webb by 1. And it is Gardner-Webb 5.5. I'm going to take Campbell plus 5.5 at minus 115. Winthrop and Charleston Southern. My projection for this game is Winthrop by 18.5. And it's Winthrop by 13.5. I'm going to lay the 13.5 at Winthrop at minus 115. 4 o'clock, you have FAU and James Madison. No line posted yet, but my projection is FAU by 5, so you'd think FAU would win that game. 6 o'clock, Dayton and Fordham. My projection for this game is Dayton by 22.5, and it's Dayton by 11.5. I'm going to lay 11.5 with Dayton against Fordham. Longwood and South Carolina Upstate. My projection is Upstate by 9, and Upstate is favored by 2.5, so I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Upstate, a valuable number at minus 108. Hampton and Radford. My projection for this game is Radford 9.5. And I don't see a line for this game on ESPN or FanDuel. Central Michigan and Bowling Green. My projection is Bowling Green 22, and Bowling Green is favored by 9.5, so I laid the 9.5 with Bowling Green against Central Michigan. Northern Illinois and Ohio. My projection for this game is Northern Illinois is a 16-point underdog. And the line is Ohio by 14.5. So I was very close on the line. So I had to go to the total 134.5. And I'm going to take the over at minus 112. 7 o'clock, ESPNU, Kansas State at number 18, Texas Tech. My projection is Tech by 15. And Texas Tech is favored by 15.5. Total's 125.5. Tough one. I'm going to take the under. I don't feel good about it. But Texas Tech tends to play good defense, and Kansas State is not good offensively. I could see this game being played into the low 120s. So I'm going to give out the under in this game between Kansas State and Texas Tech. ACC Network, NC State at number 19. Clemson, my projection is actually NC State is a 3-point favorite. And Clemson's favorite by 4.5. I'm taking NC State plus 4.5 and minus 105 and plus 184 to win the game straight up. CBS Sports Network, Davidson and Duquesne. My projection is Davidson 8.5, and Duquesne's actually a 1.5 point favorite. I'm taking Davidson plus 1.5 and minus 112 and plus 102 straight up. SEC Network, Vanderbilt and Kentucky. My projection is Kentucky 22.5, and Kentucky's favored by 11.5. So I'm going to lay 11.5 in Kentucky and minus 114. This could be another buy low spot for John Calipari and company. Florida, Alabama on ESPN2. My projection is Florida by 4. And it's Alabama by 2.5. I'm taking Florida plus the 2.5 and minus 104 and plus 132 straight up. I know Keontae Johnson's still out. That's a big deal. I should have probably adjusted a point and a half for that. And if I do, which I am going to do actually. And I say Keontae Johnson's worth 2 points because I think he's that good of a player. And I still project Florida as a favorite. So give me Florida plus 2.5 and plus 132 on the money line. 8 o'clock, Iowa State at number 4, Texas. My projection is Texas 13, and it's Texas 12.5. Totals 139.5. This is another tough one. I'm going to take another under here at minus 114. I think that both these teams are low-scoring teams. So give me under 139.5 at minus 114. Delaware State, Coppin State, my projection is Coppin 3. And I don't see a line yet for this. ESPN tonight, North Carolina at Miami. My projection is North Carolina by 5, and North Carolina is a 2.5 point favorite, so I'm going to lay the 2.5 with North Carolina at minus 114. And North Carolina's let me down lately in picks, but you got to buy low on them somewhere, and I think this could be it. Miami has some injuries going on, so give me North Carolina minus 2.5 against Miami. 9 o'clock, SEC Network, number 13, Missouri at Mississippi State. My projection is Missouri by 8, and Missouri is favored by 1.5. I'm going to lay the 1.5 at Missouri at minus 115. I know people are like, oh, letdown spot, but I don't see it. I don't think Mississippi State's very good, so give me Missouri minus 1.5 at a juice number at minus 115. ESPN 2, number 15, Rutgers, number 23, Michigan State. My projection for this game is Michigan State 3.5, and it's Michigan State 1.5, so I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Sparty against Rutgers, so I feel good about it. You know what? I actually do. I do feel pretty good about it. I think Michigan State is starting to get on a little bit of a run here, and then Rutgers could be headed for a little bit of a low with the tough schedule. So give me Michigan State minus 1.5 against Rutgers. UConn Marquette on Fox Sports 1. My projection here is UConn 3.5. And UConn is a 1.5 point underdog. I'm taking UConn plus the 1.5 at minus 112 and plus 102 straight up. Memphis UCF, 9 o'clock ESPNU. My projection is Memphis 16. It's only 1.5. We laid 1.5 at Memphis at minus 105. And last but not least, 10 o'clock ESPN, Kansas TCU. My projection here is Kansas 11.5, and Kansas is favored by 5.5. We laid a 5.5 with Kansas at a very juice number at minus 118. If it goes up to 6, I'd still lay it with the Kansas Jayhawks. Alrighty then. Now we'll switch over to the NBA. We'll go over last night's games and look ahead to today's games. Magic over the Cavaliers, 103-83. The Magic are 5-2, Cleveland 4-3. Aaron Gordon at 24 for Orlando, Colin Sexton at 24 for Cleveland. 76ers over the Hornets, 118-101. Philly is 6-1, Charlotte's 2-5. Tobias Harris at 22, Gordon Hayward 18. Heat over the Thunder, 118-90. The Heat 3-3. OKC 2-4. Bam Adebayo had 20. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 18. Celtics over the Raptors 126-114. The Celtics 5-3. Toronto 1-5. Jason Tatum had 40. And Fred VanVleet had 35 with 8 boards. Knicks over the Hawks 113-108. The Knicks are 4-3. Atlanta's 4-3. Julius Randle had 28 to lead the way for the Knicks, along with 17 boards and 9 assists. By the way, RJ Barrett 25 points, 11 boards, 5 assists. So a great game for him as well. Trae Young 31 points and 14 assists. Mavericks over the Rockets 113-100. Big win for Dallas, much needed. They're 3-4. Houston's 2-3. Luka Doncic had 33 with 16 boards and 11 assists. Christian Wood had 23 and 7 boards for Houston. Bucks over the Pistons 125-115. The Bucks are 4-3. Detroit's 1-6. Giannis Antetokounmpo 43 points, 9 boards. Jeremy Grant 24 points to lead the way for Detroit. Pacers over the Pelicans 118-116 in overtime. The Pacers are 5-2. New Orleans 4-3. Victor Oladipo 25 points to lead the way for Indiana. He's looked like the same player from a long time ago. And then Brandon Ingram, 31 points and 8 assists. Or not a long time ago, but a couple years ago. Warriors over the Kings, 137-106. Golden State, 4-3. Sacramento, 3-4. Stephen Curry, 30 points, 9 boards and 8 assists. Harrison Barnes had 18 with 9 boards. Tonight's games, there's only 5 of them. 7:30, you have the Jazz and the Nets. My projection for this game, without Kevin Durant, is Utah by a whopping 8.5 and a total of 225. Utah's favored in this game against Brooklyn, as they should be with Kevin Durant out. They're favored by 4 and a total of 228.5. I'm going to lay it with Utah. I have a bigger edge on Utah. I think no Durant's a huge deal. And then no Dinwiddie, too. He's out for the season. But I don't think Dinwiddie should really be accounted for against the spread. Well, he was last year because they didn't have Irving and stuff. But I'm not going to account for him because, like I said, Irving and Durant are back. LeVert, I think, is worth something to the spread. Jarrett Allen's worth something to the spread on this team. Joe Harris is too. So give me Utah minus the 4 at Brooklyn. 8 o'clock Lakers, Grizzlies. My projection here is Memphis as a 13.5 point underdog, total 223.5. Meanwhile, the Lakers are favored by 9, total 218. I'm going to lay the 9 with the Lakers. Yeah, the over's enticing too, but no Ja Morant, so I think that takes away a lot of potential over. It looks like the two of them are going to play, so I'm going to lay the 9 with the Lakers. I feel better about that than I do about the over. 9 o'clock, the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. My projection for this game is Nuggets by 4.5, total 229. Meanwhile, the Nuggets are favored by 11.5, total 227. I'm going to take Minnesota plus the points. Denver really hasn't been all that special this year. No Michael Porter Jr. either. If he was there, then I'd make this 6, but 11.5 is way too big. I'm taking Minnesota plus the points. No, Minnesota won't win, but I think the cover is certainly in play. 10 o'clock, Spurs, Clippers. Projection is Clippers 9.5, total 225.5. The Clippers are favored by 8.5. We don't have a total, unfortunately, yet for this game. So right now I'm going to lay it with the Clippers, but I'll probably bet on the over or the under, depending on what the number is. If the total's over 224.5, then I'm going to bet the under. And if the total is under 220, then I'll bet the over. And last but not least, Bulls, Blazers. My projections, Blazers 2.5. The Blazers favored by 9.5. Total 234. I'm going to take the Bulls plus the 9.5. I think that this will be a closer game than people think. I think that Zach LaVine can keep them in it. as well as Laurie Markkinen and Wendell Carter Jr. And I think that core wants to show some competitiveness, and then Billy Donovan's a good coach. So I'm going to take the Bulls plus 9.5 as a dog, but no, they won't win. I just think that they will cover the spread tonight in Portland. Now I want to talk about the NFL playoff teams and questions I have for every team. I was going to do power ranking the playoff teams, but I think that some of these are very, very hard to do in terms of ranking the teams. So I'm just going to go by division and wild cards and go over questions I have for everybody. All right. I'm going to start in the AFC East, and we'll go with the Bills. My question for them heading into the postseason is whether Josh Allen can step up when it truly matters in the brightest lights. So, therefore, will the moment be too big for Josh Allen? It was last year in Houston in the second half, and obviously he doesn't want history to repeat itself. The Colts are a frisky defense, and history can very well repeat itself, but you never know. So, yeah, there you have it for the Bills. The AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, was the fourth quarter against the Indianapolis Colts a couple weeks ago a sign of a turnaround for this team? Because obviously they had lost 3 in a row and they looked bad offensively. Big Ben looked terrible. And the same can be said in the first 3 quarters of the Indy game. But the fourth quarter, not just the fourth quarter, but the last 3 minutes of the third quarter, that Indy game too, with the Steelers, we'll see with them. The Titans. My question for Tennessee is that can they get a big stop when it matters the most? Their defense has been abysmal at times this season. It was abysmal against the Texans. It's what cost me my Titans minus 7.5 pick. But, oh well, it is what it is. But, yeah, can their defense get a stop when it matters? Kansas City. They really have not looked like the holy hell Chiefs that would kick everybody's asses over the last couple weeks, and quite frankly, the majority of the year. Like, the only ass-kicking wins were against Houston and against the Jets. Like, every other game's been close. Carolina was close. The Chargers game week 17 didn't matter because they had everything locked up. The other Charger game in week 2, they should have lost that game to Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Oh, and then they kicked ass against Denver. In Denver in the middle of the year too. And then Raiders, those were 2 close games. The Bronco game on Sunday Night Football was a close game. So, is this who the Chiefs are? Like, this team that just finds ways to pull out close games, or will they revert back to that ass-kicking team we saw at times this season? Wild cards. The first wild card, the Ravens. Are they this year's hot at the right time team? Every once in a while we have a team that, quite frankly, comes out of nowhere and gets hot at the right time. We haven't had one of those in a while. And I think the Ravens are a good candidate for that in the AFC. They really didn't look right a majority of the year, and then these last couple weeks they looked like the same team as last year. The Cleveland Browns. Are they the happy to be there team? Are they the team that's just happy to be in the playoffs and then will just lay an egg against the Steelers? Or really just step up and potentially could beat them? You never know. And the Colts. My question for the Indianapolis Colts is Phillip Rivers. And whether he can have a deep run in him. I know the furthest he's made it was to the AFC Championship game with the Chargers. And now he has a tough task of going into Buffalo and asked to beat a Bills team that has been dominant over these last couple months. To the NFC we go. The NFC East, your winner, the Washington Professional Football Team. My question for them, Alex Smith, obviously coming off that injury and was hurt again and played very well in that Eagles game. And the question is, can that offense match the Bucs? I think that their defense can get a couple stops. Chase Young, I could see getting after Tom Brady a little bit, but can their offense match Tampa? The Green Bay Packers. My question for them has been the question I've had for them all season long, is that first round pick with Jordan Love. Don't you think that that's going to come back and haunt them at some point, that they didn't draft an impact player offensively? I know Devontae Adams is awesome, but the rest of their receivers just drop passes. Like, Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropped a pass against the Bears. I know they blew him out eventually, but they're going to be going up against better defenses in the playoffs. So, you never know. That second receiver could very well cost Aaron Rodgers a second ring. The New Orleans Saints. How healthy is Drew Brees? We saw Brees come back against the Chiefs. Showed a little bit, and then he looked pretty healthy against the Panthers, but the Panthers stink. So, we'll see if Drew Brees is still the Drew Brees we know and love when they hit the field against the Bears on Saturday. Or, I'm sorry, Sunday. The Seattle Seahawks. My question for them is their defense. Their defense has had some moments throughout the year, but I don't trust that defense against the Aaron Rodgers Packers offense or the Breeze offense. Obviously, Tampa's offense. And next up is the 5 seed, and that is Tampa. My question for them is Brady, does he have yet another run in him? Will he bounce back from last year's debacle against the Titans? I think it's a good shot because they're playing a very weak opponent. But they have a good defense, as I alluded to earlier. Chase Young and Ryan Kerrigan and all those guys, like they're good players on the pass rush of Washington. Your 6th seed is the Rams. My question for them is Jared Goff. Will he be healthy enough to produce for the Rams and potentially lead them to a second Super Bowl run in 3 years? And then, last but not least, the Chicago Bears. Which Mitch Trubisky will we get? We get the Mitch Trubisky that we saw get the Bears back into this position? Or will you see the Mitch Trubisky that looked terrible against the Packers in Week 17? And earlier in the season against the Giants and against Atlanta. So, a ton of questions I have for these teams. We'll see which ones come into fruition, and we'll look back next week and see what happens. All right, before I do Best Bet, I'd like to hit on some college basketball news. That the NCAA tournament will be taking place in Indianapolis. It's going to be hosted by a majority of teams: Ball State, Butler, and a bunch of others. I think Bloomington's in there as well. Notre Dame. Yeah, here we go. The NCAA tournament sites. 4 of them in Indianapolis. So Bankers Life Fieldhouse, Lucas Oil Stadium, Hinkey Fieldhouse, Indiana's Farmers Coliseum. In Bloomington at Assembly Hall, so Indiana, and then West Lafayette, the Mackey Arena of Purdue. So I think it's pretty cool. So it's pretty much like a bubble. And you would think that the Final Four is going to be at Lucas Oil Stadium, because obviously that's the biggest stadium. And then you would think that the Sweet 16 games will be held at Bankers Life. And same with the Elite Eight. And then the rest of the games, the round of 32 and the round of 64, and even the first 4 will be held at Hinkey, Farmers, Assembly Hall, and Mackey. So it's going to be an interesting tournament. Obviously, we're a long way away, but I just wanted to get that bit of news out of the way. And by the way, Lucas Oil, 2 courts, 1 game at a time at Lucas Oil, according to CBS Sports Network's Matt Norlander. All right, now I'll do my best bet of the day. Brought to you by FanDuel. There's some interesting choices up there. And the one I am going to go with for today. Oh, they just closed up the Bulls-Blazers line for whatever reason. There must be an injury or something that wasn't announced. So, I wonder what that was. Very, very hard call. I have a couple in mind. I'm going to take... Ooh. I'm stuck between a couple. Utah against Brooklyn. BU against Holy Cross. Davidson. NC State. Carolina. Memphis. UConn. Missouri. It's going to be one of those teams. Kansas, I just don't like that the number's juiced. I'm going to take Missouri at the juice number. I don't like the pick, but that's where I'm going to go today. Missouri minus 1.5 against Mississippi State. So there you have it. And that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow with college basketball and NBA results looking ahead to tomorrow. NHL Centerman ranking. Too bad we couldn't get to it today. I apologize for that. We'll preview tomorrow night's episode of The Masked Answer, and I'll have my best bet for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.